That's a really good question. So I define equity as return on investment in a thing. Democrats are really good, liberals are really good at changing the definition of stuff to fit the context and the end that they want. Let's keep equity as what it's always been. Return on investment in a thing, and fair return on investment. You have equity in your home, right? Because you've paid that mortgage, you've invested in it, you've beautified it, you've improved the curb appeal, right?
Yes.
You've done enhancements on it. You've contributed to it. Therefore, you have equity. Your neighbor does not have equity in your home because they haven't done anything to earn it, right? Inclusion is the idea that you are enfolding, recognizing, and accepting the difference, right? The people who are involved in a space or an activity, right? And so for me, equity is different than equality. Equality is everybody gets the same treatment no matter what. I do think in the United States of America that we're not doing good public policy if we just focus on equality. I do think equality is an aim where everybody is getting the same treatment. I do think constitutional rights should apply to all Americans. However, I do think there are some things that we have historically failed at as a nation that we haven't fixed. I do think that the civil rights movement, as well as the Reconstruction era, was designed to get us to a state where we could experience equality. Let's be real. When the Civil War ended and when the Emancipation Proclamation happened, we had to know that the people who once owned my ancestors yesterday weren't going to turn around and be like, "Oh, okay, Jim, let's go down to the tavern and get a beer together," right? And so equality is an aspiration, and the more we do to fix the holes from impacts from the past, the more we do to educate society about the idea of inclusion and equality and equity and what it should look like, the more we do to hold people accountable who still hold these beliefs about race or gender or sex is what I mean when I say that.
Sure.
Women should be in the kitchen or whatever, for example. The more we do to educate people about that, to socialize people about living out the words that are on paper, the more equality we will have. I think what we fail to do as Republicans is we tend to think that equality is a current state that we have, and we don't need to address anything that isn't that is disparate impact. I think we could do better than that, and I think when we do that, when we are able to say yes, equality is the aim, and we're going to hold people accountable when they practice in our nation anything short than that,
Sure.
I think we're going to pull in far more people.
That's an interesting answer, because when I often have this conversation and I look at the way progressives approach this conversation, they look at outcomes and they'll see if the outcomes are disparate, they work backwards from that and say, well, there must be something systemic that's causing this lack of this disparate outcome. If you say 40%, 50% of this population goes to college, but only 10% of this population goes to college, then there's someone holding this other group back. And the truth of the matter is, when we're talking about equity, talent, your what you're good at, that's not distributed equitably across. Someone who's 7 feet tall has a much better chance of going to the NBA than someone who's 5 feet tall. Spud Webb notwithstanding.
Right, yeah, he was a special case, amazing, right.
Someone who is very, very good at math is going to do better in an engineering major in college than someone who hates math.
Right.
Again, someone who's very good with their hands is going to be perhaps a better plumber than someone who is not really good with their hands.
Right.
So that's my criticism of the Democratic Party, and to your larger point, why their market share keeps shrinking is because they keep trying to make these arguments that they know better than everyone, and that if you just give them more control and more of your taxes, then they can figure it out.
Yeah.
Whereas the Republican Party, and again, for the record, I'm an independent, but I'm an independent conservative.
Gotcha.
So I just want to say that for the people who are listening, because I said that on the radio. But the Republican Party, I can at least laud them for having the approach of let's remove barriers and give individuals the opportunity to pursue their own dreams. But they also say, in following that path, there's a possibility that you will fail. That's the other thing that Democrats and progressive Democrats, their assumption is that if you try and fail, that it's someone else's fault. And that's the biggest. I think people are getting tired of that.